Okay. So
Hi,
everybody
guys.
knows our appraisal expert, Cheryl Towey.
I don't know
Anyone
about
who
that.
calls me and asks me for appraisal assistance, I say call Cheryl Towey. So with no further ado, here is Cheryl Towey.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
So I'll start off. Does anybody have any specific questions you want to ask? Or like understand something that maybe I'm going to go over?
I guess you can start off with the basics and tell people what an appraisal is.
Okay. So appraisers are just as crazy as agents. They don't always come in or see or understand a lot of things because they don't see a lot of things as well. Their job, their client is technically the bank. So they're the person they have to protect, even though the buyers or the homeowner is the responsible for the appraisal. They're not technically their clients. The bank is. So the appraiser's job is to protect the bank. So when they go out there, we, as appraisers, you actually have guidelines you have to follow. There are certain things that if you don't do them, you have to put in detail in the report why you didn't do them. So for example, if you went outside, they like all comps to be within a mile. If for some reason the appraiser went outside that mile, they need to state why they did that. So that's like, as agents, sometimes we may go further, but the appraiser's actually not supposed to unless they have to. Same thing with their adjustments. Their adjustments can only be so much. Like they can't compare a 3,000 square foot home to 1,000 square foot home because that adjustment would be so much that it would just send everything off the actual bottom, the bottom line number of it. So if you do that, you have to justify why you did that. So that being said, normally, and a lot of the as an agent, you're only putting in there like great property, wonderful home. The appraiser kind of has to decipher what does that mean. So most agents are not going to put in their listing that there's a cliff in the backyard, right? And if you know that, you want to make sure the appraiser knows that as well, because no one's going to tell them that if they can't see it. That's why I think it's really important that people leave all the photos up when they do a closing, because those pictures are what the appraiser goes by to see the actual interior of the home. So when you're pulling them off and you're only showing a front photo, it's very hard for the appraiser to know what it looked like inside if they have no pictures. So that's basically the initial. The thing that's going to make your biggest adjustments on an appraisal is going to be your square footage of your home, your bathrooms, your finished basements, unfinished basements, the lot size. You'll get a little bit of an adjustment, not too much, if there's a condition adjustment. So there's two lines on an appraisal. One is a quality adjustment and one's a condition adjustment. So quality is more granite countertops, top of the line cabinetry, marble flooring, hardwood floors. So that's quality. Condition is you can go into 1970 home and it's really in good condition because that person really maintained it well. So it's in good condition, it's just dated. So there's those two adjustments are somewhere between, I would say 3 to 5%. A lot of people use Otto to make those adjustments. I think his adjustments are a little high because I think he uses more of a national instead of a state adjustment or an area. An appraiser is actually supposed to use something called pair sales analysis. So they are supposed to take 3 sales in the area and figure out what made those adjustments. Why did this one sell for more than that one? What is the reasoning? Was it the pool in the backyard that this house got $25,000 more than the other one? then you would figure out that that's the, the pool was what sold the house. So they would have to come up with, it's called fair sales analysis. But honestly, mostly it's just figures we have in our head that we know people are willing to pay in a certain price range, in a certain neighborhood. It's they do it, but we don't do it on a regular basis. So that being said, right now, does anybody have any questions?
Good.
All right, so for what I would do is, this is the way I do, this is the way I was taught to use the multiple listing. So I always go to search, I go to advanced search, and I go to residential. So I put in here already, everything, I checked all, not checked all, I checked this one. So coming soon's active, under contracts, and sold. Come up. I did Morris County. I took out the condos because that doesn't mean anything. I'm in Parsippany. I'm doing between 450 and 650. Say, and I think the house I chose was the house I chose was about 550. So I go about 100, about if I don't know the area or if I'm just trying to get a grasp on what the market's selling for. So I did between 450 and 650 on both the list price and the sale price. And then I hit search. There's 265 sales. So I go in there. So to narrow this down, I'm going to check all. I'm going to hit the map. And the house I was looking at was 26 Wood Glen. So I go down to, I gotta move you guys, hold on, because you're in my way. There we go. Where's this one? What's it? 26 Wood Glen. Why can't I find it now? Why is it not populating? Thompson. Okay, so then just say this is the subject. So I would click on that, on the address, and it actually will highlight you the section of Parsippany that it's in. So I can very easily now, you guys are kind of in my way, create a box, zoom in a little bit, create the box, and now I'm separating everything else from that section of Parsippany that I'm in. Then I hit narrow.
Cheryl, I've never ever even known this existed. So this is great learning. Great learning.
So I know a lot of people use the quick search. I just was never taught that way. So because I didn't start obviously as an agent. But so now this narrows it down to that whole section of Parsippany. So now you look at it. So I was, for some reason, the one I picked is not on here. Oh, it moved to under contract. That's funny. It was active an hour ago, but it's under contract now. So I was looking at this Wood Glen. So I'm like, okay, it's a colonial, it's 550. This one's a ranch. So you would not compare a ranch to a colonial. You just don't. Colonials are colonials. So most of the time you try to use the similar style. If you have bi-levels, you can use a bi-level, a split level, a ranch. Capes are kind of unique. So you try to find something similar, but most of them, split levels and bi-levels are very similar. So this is a colonial. So I would go down and just look at these pictures and be like, okay, this is a split. Let me see what else we got. These are all bi-levels. This ranch I would take right out because it doesn't, all the ranches are not going to be a comparable. So I uncheck all of them. And now I narrow it down. I got a little bit more. So now we're down to basically only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 comps that actually sold. But we all know the pending ones are what the market is, right? So we want to be able to see when these are closing, because if they're closing on Monday and your appraisal's on Tuesday, I highly recommend you push the appraisal to Wednesday and call that agent and make sure they mark it closed, because an appraiser cannot use anything that is not sold, whether it's pending or they can use the pending, but if you want it sold because it justifies your value, you're going to want to wait till it officially closes before you schedule that appraisal.
Right, so at the time of
Especially
the
if it'll help your
appraisal, they
situation.
can't use that comp.
Correct. And
Right.
if it's sold, yes, they could, if and then you just have the agent mark it that way. But if it's under contract and it's not closing for 2 weeks, you can't use it. You can use it to justify your value, but you can't use it as a justification of your sale price. So now we have all these. So now I would just basically, I would pull out this split level kind of looks like, you know, Parsippany, they have those colonial splits. So this one kind of looks similar. I would take out this bi-level. I would take out this bi-level. This one as well. This one too. So now we're down to, come on, narrow for me. Now we're down to 6. So we got 4 really good comps. We have 1 under contract, which is great. Now I would print these all out and I would pull the square footages on NJACTV. Because if this one that's sold, well, Interval Road, we know is kind of a busier road. So you might get like a $10,000 adjustment for busy road. Just for example, say there's like 100 square feet, not too much of a difference. But if there's like a 500 square foot difference, you're talking like a $25,000 adjustment right now. So this one would go up or down depending on which is bigger, the sale or not.
I think we lost her there for a minute, so let's give a few seconds for her to either come back on, or I guess she will have to log back in. So anyone have any questions on what she's done so far? So she, as a buyer's agent, so something we were talking about here, yes, she lost connection. Something we were talking about here was that as a buyer's agent, you should, and you're going to meet the appraiser, you should be doing, you know, I understand the appraiser is going to do their own due diligence and pull comps, but as the buyer's agent, you don't know where that appraiser is coming from. They could be coming from South Jersey. Maybe they don't know the area like you do. So always, you know, provide the comps to the appraiser to support the value that your buyer is buying that home at. Okay, because if it doesn't appraise, that deal could fall apart, and you don't want that to happen with all the work you've done. All right, sorry, Cheryl, I was just filling in.
No, I agree with that. And that, so like you can say, listen, this is what I think, and always give a range. You never really give a number, because if the range is there, the appraiser is going to go within that range. So say that comped out at between 550 and 575. Your client wants to offer 595. Say that's great, but are you willing to make up that difference if I can't push the appraisal that high? You know, so then you would state, yes, I'm willing to, because now you have a nice range, right? So you know you can get it to kind of appraise for that. Your buyer is going to have to determine if they can make up that difference. And that's what's going to win you the offers as well, because you know how far you can push it. If you don't, and you're kind of just being like, oh yeah, don't worry about the appraisal, and then it comes in at 530, you're kind of like, oh, well, what happened? You know, always meet the appraiser, never be late, always be super nice. If you know anything on a sale that there's something wrong with the property, note it on those papers that you print out. Make sure you say this, you know, this one, the lot was awful, or that one, the kitchen was terrible, the layout wasn't great. really make sure that they know the differences in the sales if you've seen the properties. Does anybody have any questions? Where was the other thing? Oh,
Wait, can I, excuse me, can I ask a question? Cheryl?
sure, go ahead.
You're doing a great job, hon.
Jenny.
Okay, so, normally then, like what you're suggesting is only then provide comps within that mile, not further within that stretch, even if it's within that same town.
Not like in talking about this particular area, no, you wouldn't go to Lake Parsippany to compare to this section. I mean, if they're in the same school district, yes. Could you expand it a little more? Yes. But once you start getting into, I don't know about you guys, but my buyers in Parsippany, they want specific areas because their kids are in the school, they want to upgrade, they want to keep their kids in the school, or they want a certain high school. And it's like 50-50, depending on what they want. But you wouldn't go into a completely different section just to justify your comps. It's not going to work.
Gotcha. And you want to provide them with like a ton, like 10, 20 comps, you'd provide them with like just a handful?
Yes. If you have active I would provide them with maybe 1 or 2 actives, 1 or 2 under contracts if they're available. And then definitely, I would say 3 to 5.
Okay, thank you.
6 at the most, definitely not like 12. Because and then be really nice. Say, listen, I'm going to give you these. I'd appreciate if you consider them. If you have any questions or you're not making value, please call me so we can discuss it before submitting the report. Most of the appraisers will call you if they are not seeing the value, if they're not understanding where you got this from.
Thank you.
No
Cheryl,
problem.
I have a question here
Sure.
from Kelly. So if you provided the comps to the appraiser
Mm-hmm.
in the area like you did, and then the appraisal comes back undervalued,
Mm-hmm.
and they used comps from like 3 to 4 miles away, can you contest that appraisal?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I will tell you, it just happened to me. I had an appraisal, it was in Sparta. And I told the listing agent, please make sure that I'm there. He did not. The appraiser went there, he let him in, he had just a key box. So he went in. My appraisal came in $45,000 below contract price. And I told my client, please let me see the appraisal. He only used 3 comps. And if you know Sussex County at all, Sparta is Sparta. Sparta is the Mecca of Sussex County. We all know that.
The Mecca, I love it.
The Mecca of, they are like, they have homes from 200,000, but they also have like 2-3 million homes. So that's, the hub of basically where the most expensive homes are. He used comps from Franklin and Ogdensburg, which is a completely different school district. People move to Sparta because they want the schools, they want that status. And I sent a huge letter. I ripped the guy apart. But again, even in Sparta, like where this house was, I wouldn't compare to Lake Mohawk because I'm not in Lake Mohawk. I'm outside of, the Lake Mohawk area. So would you compare to Lake Mohawk? No. But I lost. And I was so upset.
Hey, Cheryl, isn't it up to the appraiser whether they decide to do it again or not, to take your comps? It's his
Yeah.
call, his or her
Oh, yeah.
call, basically, right?
It's their call. They don't have
Yeah.
to. What we did was I looked at my client and they knew it was a really bad appraisal. And I said to them, I'm not forcing you to do anything. I said, but I highly recommend you switch lenders.
Mm-hmm.
They switched lenders. We came in at contract price. And it worked.
That's the only way. How many appraisers are going to admit that they didn't do a good job and say, oh, of course you're right and I'm wrong, and redo the appraisal, right? It's very, very, a slim chance. But yes, the only way around that is for them to then go to another bank, which happened to me as well once in my career. So, and then they'll send out their own appraiser and
Yeah.
then, so.
Switch appraisal.
That's at a cost to the buyer again, correct?
Yes, they had to pay for another appraisal, yes. Yeah. But, and the seller was willing to wait. I had another one. So it was awful. I felt so bad for my client, but so we were under contract for 320. We got an accepted offer on Friday. Saturday, of course, we weren't under contract. The contract was executed over the weekend. Multiple offers came in. Now we're in a bidding war. They came back to us. They said, what do you want to do? So we went up to 340. But because that first 320 was executed, both contracts had to go to the attorneys. One had to get null and void because it was signed by both parties. So we ended up winning the bidding war. My client, the buyer, unfortunately sent the 320 contract, not the 340 contract. And he goes, I'm so sorry. And I was like, okay, like I can fight it, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. But an appraiser's not going to up at 20 grand. They may give us 5, maybe 10. If they're going to change it, they're not going to give us much more than that. So sure enough, we tried to fight it. We only got $5,000 more. We switched lenders and we came in at 345. So it's, because that was the appraiser's perception. That was the contract price. And he wasn't going to go against that because then he gets looked at like, why didn't you do that? Or, they can only make that change so much. They can't state that they're so far off because then they look bad.
Yep.
But on here, I don't know if you can see the screen. I don't know how good you can see it either. So this is really when you're looking at the appraisal, this is basically what it's going to look like. If you get a copy, you're going to have the front page. You're going to have a little blurb of a letter. This technically the first page is all information about the property, what it has, what type of home it is, the type of siding, all that stuff. So this is just informational on the subject. Then this is where the comps start. And this is where you can see. So if you get the appraisal, this is where you can see what they're actually giving. So on here, the subject, they gave it, oh God, I mean, I can get into Q4s and C4s, but then it's kind of going to get a little complicated. But he didn't
With,
give
like driveways and garages and things that we know.
Yeah, I think it's actually in this report. If any, I'll go scroll down and make sure. But so on this one, they said the subject was equal, pretty much so, except in the lot size was a little bigger. This lot size, he gave him 25,000. So that seems like an awful lot of money for like 1,500 square feet, but I don't know. I'm not a sure person. So I don't know why they did that. This is where they did they did no quality adjustments. So the quality must have been the same. They did give a condition adjustment. They gave this one a C3 as opposed to a C4, and they gave it a $36,000 adjustment. So what, Kelly, if your appraisal's that off, did you make those adjustments? Did you compare the apples to apples when you gave him those comps?
I thought they were apples to apples, but
Did you look at the report, the appraisal like this and go through it line by line to see what they adjusted for? I think is what she's asking.
I did. It was just that, like the property that was being purchased was a net comp. This guy went out to Mount Olive.
Oh.
Like, that's not?
Why would he do that?
Thank you.
Did you meet him initially?
Yeah, met him, gave him comps, and they were I think a few of them were within like a half a mile. There was a bunch that were essentially sold or under contract within a mile radius. But
What made him go so far? What made him go to Mount Olive? Did you ask?
I didn't, because that's that one that was listed as a proper home, but then became like a condo.
Oh, yeah, so there was other issues that ended
that
up with
was-
this. The agent marketed it as a home, but it was actually a condo. It had been changed to a condo status years ago.
Oh,
And yes, I think it's like 2 homes on a property or
Yeah, it's a
something.
half a duplex.
Yeah,
That's
half a
what we're
duplex
buying.
and it was changed to a condo. But nobody knew
so
that.
that may have been why he went to Mount Olive.
Okay.
That may have been why. So when you have unique properties, it's not all cookie cutter things. You can go outside the community. So for me, like up by me, it's really easy. If I have a 50-acre farm up here, you can basically go within the county because there's nothing like a 50-acre farm. There's so far and few in between. You can really expand your search, and that justifies it. And they will state in the appraisal, we're justifying it because it was, there was no comparables within a close proximity. But on here, you can see like they only gave for a half a bath, they were given $2,500. So for every half a bath or full bath, they would give a $2,500 adjustment. Let's see if we can see this. I guess, well, this was actually a mistake. He didn't give anything for the basement.
Because there's no
So-
basements down the shore.
They have this one as 1,400.
Yeah, but it's not,
No, I'm sorry, 144. Okay, that's why there was no adjustment.
yeah, it's
Hey,
not
does this
it's not a positive.
True. They were giving $5,000 for central air. They gave $10,000 for a 2-car garage, which means they're only giving $5,000 for a garage. The porches, they were given about 2,500. Fireplace, they were given 3,500. I mean, his adjustments seem a little low, but I mean, for a $700,000 house, I would have assumed they would be a little higher. But this is why. So then when you come down here on the bottom line, you see what they all adjusted to. So this one originally sold for $764,200, but it adjusted down to $746. This one adjusted up from $710 to $735. This one adjusted up $700 to $750, $6,300. So that's why I'm saying if you don't make those adjustments and you're just going by these prices up here, your numbers are going to be so wrong, because here you have from 700 to 764. Down here you have 735 to 756 just after the adjustments. So this was
So Cheryl,
go ahead.
it's not considered a bedroom unless it has a closet, correct?
Correct.
I just left my appraisal and the guy never talked to me. The only thing he asked me was, "You are the agent, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was on the phone the whole time
Oh, geez.
and he would never talk to me about anything. He didn't want any of the comps, nothing. The only thing he got off one time and said, "I don't see any chip paint." I'm like, "Because he's fixed all that already." And that was it, because it's an FHA loan.
Right.
And that's all he said to me. That was it. I'm serious. He would not talk to me at all.
Well, just like we have agents who are not pleasant, we also have appraisers that aren't pleasant.
Yeah, and I kept wanting to ask him questions, and he would just point to his headset that he was on the phone. I'm like, okay.
Well, the next time you see his name to do an appraisal, run.
Yes. So I can't wait to see the report.
Yeah, so you would just run. Because there
Yeah.
was one appraiser. He kept killing all my deals, and I was like, this guy is just out for vengeance. I just want to see if that Q4 thing and C3 thing is in here. I think they have to include it
It is, there is a insert that tells you.
in the back, right? Here it
Yep,
is.
There it goes, yep.
So this page, this will explain to you how they determine what a C1 or C2 or C3 how they, what it needs to qualify for that type of status. And then you get the Q1s, which is the quality. So this is kind of informative if anybody just wanted to read through it. You know, quality is gonna, you know, Q1 is gonna be top of the line everything throughout the entire house, inside and out. I mean, Q1 they may give to more like new construction with like top, like a, you know, multi-million-dollar home. Then they're gonna have all these updated, not updated. And that's it. I don't know what this one is.
Excuse me, it's Nancy.
Hi,
Hi.
Nancy.
Is there any way to send us those definitions?
Yeah, definitely.
I could actually add the document into the chat box,
Okay,
and then you guys can download it from there, or if it's easier for you, I could just email it to you guys, probably.
either way.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
yep.
And you, like, I'm gonna just look
Can-
on this one. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
can you email it? Because I'm still,
Yes, I will email it. I will email it. I will do that.
So,
Quick question. Going back to switching lenders, then it costs the buyers all the fees all over again, correct?
No, it just-
Application fee and all that. I mean, it all,
yeah, I mean, that I'm not sure of. I know they had to pay for the appraisal. I don't know
Right.
about other fees.
okay, thanks.
I mean, luckily they were, honestly, they got a better rate. And they, both of them did not use who I recommended from the get-go.
Okay,
So they had their own, and like I said, I can't even imagine where this appraiser came from because it was just, it was mind-boggling how bad it was.
see, so each independent, each lender has their own pool that they pull from? I thought it was a generic statewide pool.
No, so what they do is the lender actually is not allowed to talk to the appraiser. That changed when the market crashed. So, because obviously lenders were picking their own appraisers, things were getting sketchy, so they stopped doing that.
Right,
And that's when AMCs came into play. So they go to, they hire a company, they order the appraisal through it, and then they send them out.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody have any questions on how these adjustments are made? Or which ones you should really just, and look, there was a mistake here too. There was no adjustment for this bathroom.
I have a quick question. This
Sure.
is Kat. I'm one of the newer agents. Does the appraiser use GSMLS to find their comp properties, or do they use a different website or system?
They'll use whatever MLS system applies to the area. So Garden State would cover most of our area. If you're in Bergen County, they're gonna use NJMLS. If they're in Middlesex, they're gonna use Middlesex MLS. Monmouth, like there's so many MLS systems. It just depends on where they're from.
9 MLSs in the state of New Jersey.
Oh, there you go. See, I didn't know that.
Mhm.
So they're gonna use from whatever area is applies.
So Cheryl, I have a question,
Mhm.
because I've had different opinions from different appraisers on this. I guess the question that Lori asked earlier, like what constitutes a bedroom? So I had an appraiser tell me once I had a first floor bedroom with a closet and windows, everything, normal. But he said because there was not a full bath on that floor, he could not consider it a bedroom. And I had never heard that before. So
Never heard that.
is there like a standard list for appraisers of what or guidelines, or
The closet
opinions?
has to have a closet. And I mean, I know like some towns have square footage, like it has to be so big. Like
Right.
you can't consider a 5x5 room because that has a closet in it, a bedroom. 'cause that wouldn't even count as everything into it, you know? Like you couldn't fit a bed. You
Right,
know,
yeah,
so.
I think it has to be a specific, like 7x7 or 8x8. I know that there is a specific number.
I think
that has
there
to be.
is, but I mean, you really never came across that. It was more about the closet.
And
in
an
the bedroom.
egress window.
And the window.
Yeah.
Mhm. Especially if you're in if you're in a, so on this line right here, I don't know if you guys can see, but here, this is where you're gonna get the adjustments for the basement. So if you had and then it says rooms below grade, you're gonna have they're gonna put out the rooms here, which is gonna make an adjustment over here. So if you have a full bath and a bedroom down here and this one doesn't have any, this one will go up in value because you're adding to it to make it compared to apples to apples. Does that make sense? Does everybody understand why how these adjustments are made? Like what would make, like, does then everybody understand why this is a negative $5,000 here?
There's no air
Someone said
conditioning.
no here.
Right, because there's no air conditioning. So this one, there is air conditioning, so they're taking it away to make this one equal to the subject. Same thing here with the square footage. They're adding it because it's making it big. It would make this house the same size as this house by adding this much money, which they're giving $100 a square foot. That's high. I don't think most appraisers around here in this area for a $700,000 house is giving $100 a square foot. 50, 75, but 100 sounds a little bit higher.
So it's really specific to the area.
It is. It definitely is. And again, I don't understand why 600 square feet got 20 grand. Like that, I don't know why they made that adjustment.
Hi, Cheryl. This is Carlos Tam.
Hi, Carlos.
Thank you for the class. So in those numbers, at the end, the appraisal number would be the average of those three comparables?
No.
That's a
So
great question.
it is a good question. So as you can see on the bottom here, this is how they all adjusted, right? So they have 746, 735, and 756. You can see the net and the gross adjustments here as well. This one, the net adjustment was 2.4, 3.6, 8.0. The gross adjustment on this one was 10.9. This one was 16.6, and this one was 5. So honestly, if I was doing this appraisal, I would probably put most weight on this one because it had the least amount of net and gross adjustments. So again, when I say the appraiser has to have guidelines too, these numbers cannot be like 35%, 40%. It doesn't line up. So they all have to be very similar in adjustments. And these can't have $100,000 difference either. They have to line up. It is not an average. They give the most weight to something, whether it be the most or the least amount of net and gross adjustments, whether it be the closest sale, because you can tell this one is also 0.55 miles away.
Mhm.
The other one is 0.92. The other one is 1.38. They can just put it, based on same street. So they have to put the most weight on one of them and go by that number. They can't just average them. It's not an average.
So one of these numbers is going to be picked based. So at the end of the day, is more subjective rather than a math calculation.
And an appraisal is a personal appraiser's opinion of value. That's basically the definition of an appraisal. It's the appraiser's opinion.
When you said before that you can give opinions of whether, for example, a house has a backyard that has a cliff,
Mhm.
and that it's houses that you've seen that are comparable to the subject.
Correct.
Now,
Yep.
now if your subject house, the one that you're trying to help your client, has certain defects or that are you obligated to tell the appraisal?
No,
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that.
no, if he doesn't ask, don't tell.
Okay.
Did you have your inspections yet? No.
I see. Okay, very good. Now, sorry, I taking too
No,
long.
that's okay.
In the case, for example, now that we're in a seller's market,
Mhm.
and our fear is that the appraiser is not going to cover what our buyers are offering, right?
Correct.
What will happen in the contrary, where it's a buyer's market, and let's say the house can appraise to $500,000, but our buyer's offer is only 400.
So I have one, I mean, this has happened to me twice. So like just recently, my one buyer, which she closed now, so she was under contract for 240 and I think it appraised at 255. And I told her, I go, I repeat, do not share that with anyone. You paid for it. The buyer paid for it. It belongs to them. They don't have to share it. I think it is somewhere on something, but all you have to do when the agents ask me, did it appraise? I say, absolutely. And did I get her another $2,000 credit for it? Yes, I did. But I got her another $2,000 credit on top of it. That means she's got $15,000 worth of equity, but she took on, probably like $5,000 worth of repairs. So, I told her, I was like, do not tell anyone that. Another associate in our office, they were away on vacation. So I showed the clients the house and I knew the other agent and I said, put this offer in, whatever, they're going to put an offer in and they got accepted. Theirs also appraised for higher. And so the agent was calling me the other day saying, she's asking for a copy of the appraisal. I go, tell her you don't have it. Do you have it? She goes, no. I said, tell her you don't have it. She wants to know what it appraised for. Too bad. You don't know. I don't think you have to disclose it.
No, you don't. It's your property.
Right.
So
it's
the
buyer's
attorney should not
owner.
be providing that without your permission. The agent should not be providing it without your permission. Nobody should. It's the
Mhm.
property of the buyer because the buyer paid for it. That
Yeah.
makes it your property because you paid for it.
Yeah. And then, so the only time you have to share it is say your buyer agreed to pay $10,000 over appraised value and you're under contract for 500, it appraised for 450. You're going to have to provide that appraisal to them. And then they know that it goes up to 460 instead of 500. So that's the only way you would share it, but no, never share that information. I mean, and that was just the other day. So it's not like I'm talking about situations that weren't pre-COVID. They were recently. I just got lucky.
I see. Thanks. Now, in the case, talking from the bank's perspective, let's say there's a market crash and it turns into completely the opposite, where there's a buyer's market. I'm guessing from the bank's perspective, they will happily still lend the money, even though the house appraises for a lot more, and the buyer's willing to pay half of that price, for example.
Oh, of course. I mean, the banks, as long as it appraises, you're good.
Mhm.
You might, I mean, depending on how it is, but if you're only putting so much down, and I don't know if that would be an Anthony question. I would think maybe you can get rid of your PMI. Like if you're only putting 3% down and you already have 20% in equity,
Right.
you wouldn't need PMIs, so they might actually save money, but I don't know if you could do that while you're purchasing as opposed to, 2 years down the line when you have the 20% to get rid of the PMI.
Thank you, Cheryl.
I'm not sure of that answer. Any other questions?
I had one. Oh, because I heard you bring it up, sort of. I know Anthony Rosamalia has mentioned before, if you're having a home inspection and the appraiser calls and you're like, oh, I'm going to be at the home inspection between 12 and 2, come then. Anthony thinks that's a really bad idea to have an inspector there and a appraiser there at the same time, because if something comes up in an inspection, now the appraiser is privy to it.
Yeah.
Oh, true.
But it's so convenient to do that, right? Like, I'm gonna be there for 2 hours. Everybody come by during that time.
It makes life a little bit easier, but it's really not a good idea.
Yeah.
You want to have the appraiser there first, and then an hour later have the home inspector come. Because once the appraiser leaves, then you can honestly say, I don't know, we didn't have the inspections yet,
Mhm, right, right.
right? So honestly, guys, I think while you're pulling your comps, whether you're just as a buyer's agent or a listing, if you're doing a listing, the biggest thing is these adjustments right here is your square footage. If you think there's a condition adjustment, if you want to really get into the nitty gritty, I would start doing like there's a porch, patio, deck, fireplace, pool. Those will, but if you just keep it simple, this adjustment, the square footage is going to make the biggest adjustment. Unless you have you're trying to compare homes that are renovated to not renovated. I would rather see you just do those at least to give you a better guide, because you can see how much they change on the bottom just by doing that. Bring comps, be nice. And try and tell them any details that maybe that he wouldn't know on the sales is really key.
I was just trying to see if I had the updated Octo adjustment form. I know a lot of agents like to use that.
Yeah, and that's a good guide. Like I said, I think it just depends on the area that you're in and the price range of it. Which I just like here, I think this is funny that he used $2,500 for a half bath, but he used $100 a square foot. I just don't think but I have a feeling he used probably the auto.
Well, could it be the condition of the bathroom?
No, it's really just the bathroom.
Oh, okay. So it has nothing to do with the condition.
No, because the condition is going to go on this line. So if these bathrooms were renovated and these were unrenovated, they would make an adjustment here for renovations. And then this one would be, if this one is like builder's grade and this one is top of the line, the quality would come in here.
Oh, okay. Got it. So I did find the auto adjustment form for 2020 because they won't have 2021 out until this year completes. Can I share the screen a minute, Cheryl?
Yeah, go ahead. I'd be curious to see it.
So I remember, I thought I remember someone sending it to me. No, that's not it. Here we go. Let me make it bigger for you guys.
In the meantime, I have a quick question on the line for bathrooms.
Mhm.
When we do our comparables, I think I read somewhere like we use for a bathroom somewhere between $10,000 to $15,000 for a bathroom, right? And our comparables as real estate agents. In this case, it's extremely low. So the method they're using is obviously different, right? Because they're using just
I do think it's very low on this one for a $700,000 house. I do think 2,500 is a little low. I would have probably used 5,000 for a half bath.
and then if it's a new
10,000 for a
bathroom,
pool.
you would adjust with the condition of the bathroom.
You would make the condition adjustment up here
Mhm. Got it.
as opposed
Guys,
to.
this is your bonus today. You're gonna get this as well. So,
The other thing I wanted to mention is, I don't know if anybody uses RPR, but if you use RPR, and that would be a whole nother lesson, but
hmm,
but you can go on there and do this. You can input all your sales, all your comparables. You can make the adjustments all right there. And it's
Yeah.
similar to this, but it's a little different. the way they have the wording and stuff like that. It's a little, this is simpler, the actual appraisal form.
And I would actually, encourage you to actually go onto Remind and learn that, because that is 100 times better than RPR now that they put that onto our GSMLS. So I would encourage you to learn that system first, because you can also do comps on there.
Oh, and you can make adjustments on it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So here they have busy road, power lines, cul-de-sac.
Excuse me, Missy, your screen's not showing. Cheryl's is still up.
Oh,
you want me to stop sharing?
yes, stop sharing. I'm sorry. I thought you guys were.
That's
looking.
okay, there you go, sorry.
Can you see it?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so here's the RPR, the Otto 2020
yeah, see, he did
CMA
it.
adjustment guide.
Scroll up a little bit, Missy, where do we just see the half bathroom? Right here is 750, is 9,000.
Yeah,
So I don't know where this guy got his numbers from. They just seem a little high. And then gross, where's the per square foot? He's giving about $100 a square foot for a 750 house.
Are you gonna email this to us also, Missy?
I am. It's your special
Yay.
gift today. How come I don't see, oh, gross living area? Okay.
Yeah, gross living.
So
area.
$100 a square foot was correct if you were going off.
Yeah,
this
if you want
chart,
by hand. But he gave 2,500 for a half bath.
Yeah, for a full bath. I don't even think it was a half bath. It was a
Yeah, he
full
was
bath.
more comparing it to like a 250,000.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, to me, that makes sense.
Missy, where do you get this CMA adjustment? What's the source?
So Jeff Otto is a national appraiser and speaker. He
Yeah.
has a company now that he comes out once or twice a year, and I guess you could do it via Zoom now. But he does a training and a meeting on the market, and it's probably about 3 hours long. And then you pay for the class, but then you also have access to his website and all of his resources and all of that stuff. That might be a fee too. But people who have attended Jeff Otto's meetings or sessions, never stop training them. Like, they find it such a great resource and a great value. So again, this is on a national level. This isn't New Jersey or Morris County. But the resource that you get is probably hundreds of pages, and it's things that you can use in your presentations, your buyer's consultations, your listing presentations. And he asked that you don't share this information, obviously, because he wants people to come to his trainings and sessions. But I was able to get my hands on this. Usually once a year I can get my hands on this, and when I do, I'll put it in the MRC room for you to grab. And also, I'm going to share it with you guys today. So you have something at least you can use for adjustments, when you're comping homes.
And this, if everybody starts using this, like, your number should be much more accurate to saying, if your client is saying, well, the house down the street sold for 800,000. Why would I pay 900 for this one? And you can say, well, here's why. It has 1,000 square feet. It's bigger. It was fully renovated. It had 2 more bathrooms. And so people don't know that, but when you look at the house down the street, there's a reason why it sold more than the other house. In this crazy market, it is what it is.
All bets are off. Yep.
All bets are off on this one, but at least it gives you a guide saying, listen, I'm going to do my best. I think I can get it to appraise for 350 to 365. So anything above that, if we get it, we'll be lucky. But if we don't, and you're at, 385, you want to bring like 10, you want to say $10,000 more, I'm going to do my best to get it up that high. Most appraisers are not out to kill deals. Unfortunately, there just are some that are just awful.
Yeah.
So.
And I noticed here too, that they put some resources where they've been able to get the square footage from. See, we use njacb.org, right? A lot of us use that to get square footage. but they also have listed here vitalgov.net. I've never looked into that. tax.co.monmouth.newjersey.us, and then ocnjtax.com. So there's a few resources here. Like I said, we use NJACB, most of us, everybody I know, to get that information or get a more detailed tax record. But it's nice to have
Yes.
other resources if you're in other areas of New Jersey.
Like, I just want to mention too about NJACTB, you have to be very cautious using that. I just had a listing, NJACTB said it was 4,000 square feet or thereabouts. And it was really only 3,200 square feet because, and I went to the tax assessor, I put in an Oprah request for all the comps in the area. I talked to the assessor because I was like, your numbers are not making sense, like nothing's adding up. What they were doing was, it was either finished basement or finished livable basement. If they had that word livable when they put it in there, it automatically added all the square footage together. If they had it just as a finished basement, it did not. So my adjustments were completely off because of that. So always try to ask your seller if they know the square footage of their home. You know, maybe they built it, maybe they did this, maybe they did that. And I said, is your house about 30? And she's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, okay, I can kind of see that, you know, because the upstairs was bigger, it went over the garage, and it was completely off. So my numbers were off. So you just got to be cautiously. I know Tewksbury is another town. Morris Plains is another one. Most of them are okay, but you just use it cautiously.
Yeah, and to that point, if someone got an addition or on their home but did not get proper permits,
Mhm.
right, and it's not recorded with their town, then it's not going to be recorded on NJACB.
Right.
It's based on the tax records for the town.
Yeah, so use that cautiously.
But it is a good resource for just, you know, if you're going
It
on an
is.
appointment and you want to just pull some, you know, square footage, just so that you're the market expert. If the seller should ask you or the homeowner should ask you, you have that information. Like, it's good for that.
Yes, definitely.
So anybody have any questions? All right, well, I want to thank Cheryl because she is a great resource to our office, and she has a lot of great information, and for her taking her time out of her day, because she is truly, you know, extremely busy, especially in real estate, as well as being a young grandma. So
If you guys ever have any questions, your appraisals don't appraise, your houses don't appraise, I have no problem. It does not take me very long to analyze it. I will do my best to get it as quickly as possible. And I usually do. If you ever have any questions, I have no problem with you asking. And
And I had no
sometimes,
problem you asking her either, by the way, just in case you needed that extra.
no,
confirmation.
if you're
I'm fine with that.
stumped on a property where it's like a complex property and you just can't figure it out and there's no sales in the area, what do I do? Like, just call me. Like, I'm not gonna do anything but try and assist you in getting it to either appraise where you want it to be or give your sellers the best value that you can get, you know? So I really don't have a problem with it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Cheryl.
great, Cheryl. Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah,
You're
thanks, Cheryl. That was
welcome.
awesome. And I'll send you those resources in an
Yeah,
email.
that would be great. Yeah.
And thanks again, guys. Thank you for coming. Tonight is our happy hour at Tommy's Tavern, 4 to 6. I want to see a lot of those beautiful faces there. Just to get together and unwind a little bit and relax a little bit. In a more casual atmosphere than our normal craziness. So hope to see you guys later on.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Thanks, Cheryl.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Casey.
Bye.